Hi, welcome. My name's Dale McCluskey. On this video, it's part of my series called Flipping the Script. I want to once again focus in on those who identify as balanced dog trainers. And on this video, put out by a very popular balanced dog trainer, goes by the name of Jonas on TikTok, has millions of followers. Again, I talk about this whole issue of appearances. I find very interesting, again, based on certain platforms such as social media, that TikTok has become very popular by way of those who advocate this learning-based ideas to what training is, based merely on superficial response, appearances. And here in this video, which I want to take a moment to highlight because it involves the crate, and here this trainer is talking about the dog passing gas, but I want to bring the focus on to, okay, how a balanced dog trainer advocates by way of engaging in bribery, okay, very apparent here in a moment as I play this video, to get a dog to come into agreement with of accepting going into a crate. Now I talk about the crate, okay? A crate is part of a structure, okay, by way of a process. It represents control, okay? So again, if you ever wonder why a dog that is holding a certain level of control in the relationship is not going to be very agreeable to the crate, because it is about it making sense to the dog, okay, by way of relationship, by way of how you're perceived in the relationship, your role in that, how you're interacting with, and again, with the two core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, being part of the relationship, part of a process, and especially once again you're experiencing a relationship problem, those two core ingredients, influence and control, coming in the right way to gain agreeableness the right way. And again, this aligns with certain tools such as a muzzle, and even here in terms of a crate, which represents control, which extends to the dog owner. So again, when I talk about why is it dogs, get very upset, okay, about being in the crate when they have already gained a level of control, and how it ties into the owner that way in terms of relationship and their role. What happens is the dog says, well, this isn't making sense. I have full control in the relationship. The owner is faded out, and yet they're trying to control me by way of putting me inside of a crate, and so I'm going to reject that. And this is where dogs really start to stress out. They get very upset. They're trying to break out of the crate. And then you're, at the same time, though, you're still connecting with the dog in terms of those two core ingredients are not present the way that they need to be. You're connecting in more of an emotional way with your dog. And again, it sets up this type of scenario so that it creates this type of problem. Now, again, the crate, when I talk about a crate, understand I put the crate within the parameters of relationship. So the crate isn't intended to be take on a kind of a negative theme. Okay, it's meant to actually take on a theme where the dog becomes agreeable and accepting of the crate, based again on everything making sense. The dog as a follower with those two core ingredients as part of the relationship. So the dog goes into a crate the right way, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and just begins to relax. Becomes a follower. No problem at all. If you watch my videos on how I'm, introducing the crate, okay, how it's part of a structure, how those two core ingredients are part of a process, so it makes sense to the dog. And so during the board and train process, if you watch the videos, you'll see as the dogs are in the crate, they start to go from highly reactive, okay, to the crate, to highly relaxed, okay, where they're almost like acting like they're on a cruise ship. They're laying on their back, totally just letting it go, totally relaxed, based again on being a follower. But again, understand that the foundation itself as part of the process needs to align properly. Again, when I talk about aligning properly, what a process represents, I'm talking about a intentional interaction-based method, okay, that brings those core ingredients in the right way to change perception of dogs the right way. Now, here in this video, again, by way of Jonas Black, okay, you're going to, okay, right away notice how Jonas Black is attempting to get this dog to come into agreement with the crate, okay, using treats. You're going to hear the clicker going, okay, to create that that association by way of bribery, and focusing on response. Again, I talk about, balanced dog trainers, how they're, they align with the same, idea, just like force free in terms of what defines a process. Well, this really illustrates that. So I'm going to play some of this video, stop it, to add some more commentary to this.
Your mama's getting trained as well. I'll put it in here.
Oh, back off.
Oh.
So again, right here, so you hear Jonas Black in the background. He's instructing this dog owner. She threw in this big treat, right? And they say back off, right? So this goes into the whole thing about free will, okay? And this is interesting because once a dog, gains a level of control in a relationship, and this ties into even certain concepts such as counter conditioning, where those themes of bribery, accommodation, and negotiation, right, to build bridges to gain agreeableness become problematic. Okay, because understand you're taking a different path here. Dog's already, in control. That's why you're going to a trainer in the first place. But understand that balanced dog trainers, they do not even consider or tie behavioral issues in the right way by way of a dog owner experiencing a relationship problem. And again, this is where I talk about the parenting example as a foundation. It's no different than a parent, once they're dealing with a relationship problem by way of a selfish child, at that point in the relationship, engaging this way, right, to gain agreeableness by way of bribery. So people ask, well, when does bribery become bribery? Well, bribery becomes bribery when you fail to connect dots this way, when you're jumping in the middle of a relationship problem, and in a very superficial way, you're motivating certain responses. And then you're just assuming that those responses represent that the relationship's moving in the right direction. And see, that's the problem here. That's the problem in terms of balance and force-free dog training, is they approach a relationship problem as a type of a learning-based exercise. And so this whole free will part, understand that that's a problem too, because it's no different than once a child becomes very selfish, you have to ask yourself the question, well, what defines your role in terms of how you're advocating, how you're, by way of parental influence, how you're engaging relationship problem, and the free will of the child, how does that fit into your role? And once a child has already become selfish, with how you're going to engage that problem, right? You're going to assert parental influence is what you're going to do or should do. And so here, the issue about intentional control, that's not part of this. See, the dog isn't on a leash. What needs to happen here, and again, understand this plays into not just, getting more focused in certain things like the crate, because obviously, understand once a dog is starting to gain control in the relationship, guess one thing they don't want? They don't want the dog owner to bring them under intentional control, period. Okay, so you'll be struggling with the leash anyway, but then the crate's going to be very problematic because the dog isn't going to want to be brought under intentional control that way. Okay, so it's going to present a major problem because you'll see dogs really kick up and really stress out. So how you want to be doing this is, again, understand that it needs to tie into the relationship. Okay, so those core ingredients, influence and control, they need to come by way of, interactions that are happening. If you watch my videos, you'll see how I'm doing it, on leash, off leash, random moments, right? And then starting to work towards getting a dog to come into agreement with the crate, just kind of edging, right, towards gaining agreeableness the right way. So you'd have a hold of this dog's collar, you're starting to move towards it, starting to gain a little bit of traction, but doing it in a way in which, again, how I describe it is the dog's, mind coming into a place of acceptance, so you're just gaining little moments towards that. But here, totally different path. Okay, this is like, okay, I want the dog to go in the crate, but then understand too, when you see this type of, idea of things, okay, with throwing treats in a crate like this, bribing this dog, then you know everything else, those core ingredients aren't going to be part of the process the right way anyway. Understand? So this just sets up a tremendous problem by way of a process.
That was Astrid. That was legit Astrid. No, did you just think I farted? Right on. No, dude, that was Astrid.
So same thing here. So going towards the tree, right? And, you know, this whole thing about the dog deciding. That's why people say, well, you ask them, well, how's your dog in terms of, you know, crate training or whatever. There's a big difference between the door being open, the dog making the choice, right? Think about that. Free will, using treats to bribe the dog there, and or, okay, doing it the right way, okay, where you're part of the equation. So here you hear the trainer telling her to step back. You know, get out of the, you know, don't be part of the interaction. Well, she needs to be, all right, because this is how it's defined at the relationship level in terms of how it ties in, you know, in terms of, you know, your role, but you're, you know, being directly connected to those core ingredients, influence and control, bringing influence and control of this dog in a very direct way to line this up properly. Okay, so the dog understanding that, hey, I'm the one that is bringing you into agreeableness, to leadership, the right way to accept control, right? That's the right way forward. Here, it's totally opposite. And so this dog gets to decide. You're engaging in trying to motivate a response through using a treat to gain agreeableness.
And click.
That was an Astrid fart.
Yo, bro, I would never fart.
Now, right behind it, like tossing more treats in there, right? Trying to generate more of a response that way.
During a session, are you joking? And click.
So trying to create what's called like a positive, right, association, right? But understand the problem this sets up because, you know, the theme of a crate itself is about control. Okay, when you close that door, yeah, right? So, you know, that's going to generate, right? It's going to generate reactivity from a dog because ultimately when you step back, once that door closes, that dog is like in control in the relationship. And its environment, through the human, through everything beyond that environment, everything out on the street. And so the mind of the dog is now pushing out. So it's going to generate reactivity because you're not actually fixing the real issue here. You know, you're trying to do a kind of okey doke, right? You're trying to get this dog to accept going into the crate, trying to create a, you know, call it positive association, but you're following a path of bribery, negotiation, accommodation. You know, it's no different than you see dog owners that are experiencing problems, say, during, you know, walking their dog on the leash with a collar. And then what happens is the dog doesn't want to be right beside you and wants to be out in front. But then the stress loads start coming on the dog. And then you're thinking, because the reactivity levels start to happen, the dog starts to stress out because the dog's under stress because the dog's gaining control. I understand it's physiological, it's mind and body. And then you'll be thinking it's a collar. Then guess what happens? You switch to a body harness, and you let the dog out in front. It seems better, right? Because, and it's really not to do with the collar at all. It's to do with the relationship. It seems better because you follow the path of accommodation and you're allowing the dog to continue to maintain a level of control. You're never going to fix the relationship. In fact, what happens is everything's going to bottom out anyway because another dog comes out. Those stress loads are still there. And so you're in a kind of a loop that you can't get out because those core themes I talk about, influence and control, are not part of the relationship. They're not part of a process to reverse course, okay, once the dog has control. And so it becomes a major problem.
There's your Bluetooth.
Yeah, my fucking mentee just thinks that I just whip ass in my dog training sessions.
So all to say, again, you hear the clicker going. So again, this is why balanced dog trainers, right, when you talk to them, they say, and again, this is how they're playing both sides of the fence in the dog training world. You know, both sides of the ideological fence. They approach training as a learning-based exercise, not an intervention. Doesn't tie into a interaction-based method. It takes it to a power play level. Okay, those core ingredients are not there the right way at the right level, and but then, you know, they're trying to, you know, justify remote collars, right? Corrections at a certain point, and they're challenged at all levels. And then it isn't going to work out anyway because it's got to come in the right way. So for a dog that again has a certain level of control in the relationship, it leaves that door completely wide open for a relationship problem to continue to happen. So again, my encouragement again, when you think and consider certain things, you need to connect dots. Balanced dog training is not the way to go. You see these very popular balanced dog trainers out there, and they're popular because they're playing both sides of the fence. Right? You get to go to them, and some level change will happen based on the fact that influence is coming in a certain level. But you're seeing the same problems in terms of blame shifting on the dogs, unresolved behavioral issues, euthanizing dogs. You're seeing the same type of blame shifting narrative within balanced dog training for a reason. So again, check out my website. Lots of great information about not just the problem, but the solution by way of a intentional interaction-based approach. Thanks for watching.